Before June 6, 1995, Mary and James Phillips lived a happy life, blessed with three lovely children: 11-year-old Lacy, 14-year-old Jessie, and their eldest, 17-year-old Darla. But on that fateful day, everything changed for the Phillips family, and not only theirs, but also those of several other unsuspecting innocent people. The lifeless bodies of 34-year-old Mary and her daughter Lacy were discovered in Mary Phillips's office. As investigators combed through the crime scene, something extraordinary occurred. 11-year-old Lacy opened her eyes.
It was a shock, a real shock. You can imagine, it's kind of like seeing someone rise from the dead. Well, immediately I told the other officers that we need to get an ambulance down there, that she was still alive.
In the small town of Bald Knob, Arkansas, it was an ordinary day for the Phillips family. Mary and James headed off to work, while their children stayed home as it was school vacation time. At 3 p.m., Lacy had a dentist appointment, so Darla took Lacy to their mother's workplace at the local county tax office. I walked into the office and we chatted, laughed, nothing out of the ordinary. My mom kissed me goodbye and told me, "I love you," recalls Darla. Several hours had passed since Mary and her daughter Lacy were supposed to return home, but they were still nowhere to be found. James grew increasingly worried. This behavior was out of character for his wife. It seemed odd that Mary hadn't informed him of any delay. As the hours dragged on and darkness fell, there was still no sign of them. Concerned, James decided to call the police. The police dispatcher tried to gather as much information as possible about the missing individuals, questioning James about where Mary and Lacy might have last been. Armed with this information, the police opted to start their search at Mary's workplace, as that's where they were last seen. If nothing was discovered there, the plan was to check the dentist's office where Mary and Lacy had an appointment. The deputy arrived at the parking lot of the tax office. Strangely, there was only one parked vehicle, a pickup truck registered to Mary Phillips. After checking the license plate, he proceeded to the building, hoping that Mary might just be working late. Knocking on the door, he noticed that it was unlocked. Stepping into the dimly lit office with his flashlight, the officer illuminated the scene, revealing a chilling sight on the floor. It was the body of a young woman, partially undressed, her hands bound behind her back, and bruises marring her body. It was a harrowing scene even for the experienced officer. The evidence suggested a sudden and violent attack. Mary had fought desperately but had little chance against her assailant. Calling for backup, the police investigator began to meticulously examine the crime scene, focusing on every detail. Suddenly, a trail of blood caught his eye, leading to a closed door. Intrigued, the officer cautiously opened the doors and discovered a small bathroom with a toilet and sink. What awaited him inside was shocking. A young girl, lifeless and bound to a chair, with the signs of multiple blows to her head. As reinforcements arrived at the scene, the officer wasted no time and started capturing photos, ensuring to document every detail, including the two victims. But just as he began photographing the second crime scene, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. With the flash of the camera, Lacy opened her eyes.
I woke up, I heard, and I thought, is there someone taking pictures? And I turned my head. And when I did, I heard a man say, "This one's alive."
11-year-old Lacy Phillips was alive, looking at the officer with frightened eyes. It was evident she couldn't comprehend the situation fully. Without hesitation, he assisted her to her feet and provided immediate medical attention. However, Lacy's concern was solely for her mother. She anxiously questioned the officer, "Where's my mother? Is she okay?"
I told her that didn't need to worry about her mom, just need to worry about her right now.
The severely injured girl was immediately taken to the nearest hospital. The girl underwent a critical battle for survival. Doctors fought for her life for several days. Upon initial examination, a broken jaw, A severe head injury and signs of strangulation on her neck were discovered. Despite the thorough investigation, the police were still at a loss, lacking any leads or potential suspects. It appeared the perpetrator had executed the crime meticulously and confidently. The sole glimmer of hope lay in extracting information from Lacy. Meanwhile, the elusive culprit remained free, instilling fear in the local community, as no one knew where he was or what he had in mind. Uncertainty loomed over when the next tragedy might happen. Once Lacy's condition stabilized, the brave girl provided the officers with such a detailed description of the criminal that catching him proved to be quite an easy task. On the day of the attack, a dark-haired man with a teardrop tattoo on his face visited the office where Mary Phillips worked. He took a few accounting books and left, so Mary didn't pay him much attention. Later, when Mary and her daughter were getting ready to visit the dentist, the man returned and criticized Mary for not giving him the books he asked for. Angered, the visitor began threatening the woman, eventually declaring his intention to rob the office. At first, Mary tried to calm him down and persuade him to leave, but no pleadings could calm the enraged criminal. Seizing Mary, he tied her wrists with metal wire. Then, he ordered 11-year-old Lacy to follow him to an adjoining bathroom, forcing her to sit in a chair in the middle of the room. While Lacy sat tied to the chair, the criminal turned his attention to her mother. He initially strangled Mary with his bare hands, later using the cord from a desk lamp. Convinced that his victim was no longer alive, he returned to Lacy, striking her head multiple times with the butt of his gun until she lost consciousness. After a few minutes, the Lacy regained consciousness. She found herself alone in the darkness, desperately calling for her mother. Lacy suddenly saw the bathroom door swing open, but to her horror, it wasn't her mother who entered the room, but the man. Determined to finish the job, he grabbed Lacy by the neck. In total, the criminal inflicted no less than 8 blows to the head, resulting in numerous lacerations and fractures of the skull bones. Nevertheless, Lacy managed to survive, although her attacker was confident he had eliminated any traces of evidence and got rid of the only witness. The following day, as Lacy awoke in the hospital, she found her father, older sister, and brother by her side. Her room was decorated with balloons and stuffed animals, but the first thing the girl asked about was her mother.
And he got down on his knees and kind of put his arms on me, and he said, I just wanted to tell you that Mom is in heaven with Great-Grandma. And I just looked at him, and of course people are crying, and I said, okay.
Brave Lacy came to terms with reality, understanding that her mother would not return. Fortunately, the girl provided a very detailed description of the attacker, allowing the officers to swiftly identify him.
And I told him specifically from the head to the toes, everything he was wearing, you know, what he looked like. He had a teardrop tattoo on his face that I will always remember.
Jack Harold Jones was born on August 10, 1964, in Toledo, Ohio. The closest person to Jones was his sister Lynn, who supported him through the toughest times since childhood. He was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, hyperactivity, and there were also suspicions of bipolar disorder and antisocial personality disorder. In his childhood, he experienced many traumas that he didn't want to talk about even to his closest relatives. It is also known that Jones attempted to take his own life twice. He spent time in psychiatric hospitals and at one point in his life served a sentence in a juvenile detention center. Jack's sister made every effort to be a beacon of light and kindness for him, hoping to help her brother find the right path in life, but her attempts were unsuccessful. Despite Lynn's efforts to guide him, he continued down a troubled path. When the police squad visited Jack Jones, the man didn't resist. He voluntarily went with the officers. During questioning, Jack admitted to assaulting Mary and Lacy Phillips, claiming it was his way of seeking retribution against the police for ignoring the horrific event his wife endured. According to Jack, an unknown assailant attacked her, beat her, and subjected her to sexual assault. As investigators delved into Jack Jones's background, they couldn't share the feeling that his confession was more about clearing his name than genuine remorse. Then came June 7, 1995. The police finally arrested Jack Jones for the rape and murder of Mary Phillips and attempted murder of young Lacy. She, her father, and her siblings could breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that the responsible person was now behind bars. The pain of losing Mary left the family with broken hearts. Yet their quest for justice was far from over. To secure justice for Mary and prevent the attacker from causing harm again, he had to be found guilty in court. The trial unfolded with compelling evidence and a chilling recording of Lacy's hospital testimony. Despite Jones's attempts at defense, the jury saw through his facade, delivering a unanimous guilty verdict on all counts. Jack Jones was sentenced to death by lethal injection, but his story didn't end there. While awaiting execution, Jack Jones' DNA information was added to the national database and became a crucial piece in another puzzle. In 2003, detectives from the Unsolved Cases Unit managed to match the DNA of the perpetrator to another case, the murder of Lori Barrett. The 32-year-old tourist from Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, was last seen at Elbow Room, a bar located at the corner of Las Olas Boulevard, Florida, where she was spending her vacation. Witnesses saw Lori talking to a dark-haired, tattooed man with whom she left the bar. On June 1st, a cleaning lady found her lifeless body at the Days Inn Lauderdale Surf Motel. Immediately after the discovery, police officers created a facial composite with a detailed description of his tattoos and distributed numerous flyers throughout Broward County. However, aside from the composite sketch, the police had no leads, and the search for Lori's killer was unsuccessful. The case quickly went cold. It wasn't until 2003 that authorities could finally pin Jack Harold Jones to his crimes, thanks to his DNA matching that found on the victim's body, as well as the tattoos described by vigilant witnesses. Florida authorities issued an extradition order for Jones, who was ultimately sentenced to life imprisonment for the case involving Lori Barrett. He was then sent back to Arkansas, where he awaited the death penalty. During a prison visit, Lynn, Jack's sister, pleaded with him to come clean about any other murders he may have committed. She begged him to reveal the truth so that no other family would suffer in ignorance about the fate of their loved ones. Jones admitted to his sister that there was indeed another victim and left a letter for her to open after his execution. However, the execution was repeatedly postponed due to Jack Jones's severe illnesses, including hypertension and diabetes, which even led to the amputation of one of his legs. Finally, on April 24, 2017, Jack was executed by lethal injection. In a letter addressed to his sister, he confessed to yet another horrific murder, this time of 20-year-old Regina Harrison, providing details only the killer would know. On May 2, 1983, Regina went for an evening bike ride in Hollywood's North Beach neighborhood, but failed to return home. Her nude body was found the next day. The investigation revealed that she was last seen in the company of a dark-haired skinny man on a black bike. After a suspect sketch was created, the police apprehended Ronald Henry Stewart, who had a prior criminal history. A witness who last saw the girl confirmed she was with that man. Despite numerous inconsistencies and the fact that fingerprints at the crime scene did not match Ronald's, he was convicted of Regina Harrison's murder and sentenced to 50 years in prison. This illustrates the consequences of law enforcement indifference, where an innocent individual ends up serving the punishment meant for the actual perpetrator, sadly. Ronald Stewart passed away from cancer in prison in 2008. Lacy Phillips played a crucial role in ensuring Jack Jones faced justice. It's impossible to imagine the horrific trials the 11-year-old girl had to endure.
My love for my mother, my respect, my memories will always be there. And he can never take that away from me.
Over the years, Lacy attended every court hearing. After the verdict was upheld, she bravely addressed reporters, expressing her gratitude to the authorities for finally bringing justice. Currently, Lacy Phillips is happily married and a proud mother, residing in Piggott, Arkansas.
She was proud of me. She was very proud of me.
I have to just keep my head up and think of the things that make me happy, like my husband and my kids, that will always be here for me.
Mary's absence is deeply felt by her daughter, who frequently shares her affection for the victim on social media. Despite Lacy's challenging experiences, it's heartening to witness her resilience and the support of her family, enabling her to build a fulfilling life. We extend our sincerest wishes for her continued success and everlasting happiness.